Hi, I hope you had a great Sunday and that you had a great weekend. This is Wendy with Wendy's Dallas Kitchen, and I've had a request or two or three or more for my chocolate chip cookie recipe. So I decided that I'll feature that for you today, and it's been very popular through the years. If you worked with me at American Airlines, then certainly you've probably had my chocolate chip cookies. Or if you have been to our home for a holiday gathering or any gathering or party, then you've probably tried my chocolate chip cookies at that point too. But I think the chocolate chip cookie is really one of the most American treats that you can have and make. So I look forward to sharing my recipe with you, and I hope it becomes one of the your most favorite, hopefully, chocolate chip cookie recipe that you have. So for this recipe, you will need, of course, a spatula to take your cookies off of the cookie sheet. I would recommend a spatula that you can use to take the batter off of the sides of your mixing bowl. You'll need a cookie sheet, of course, and I would have two measuring cups. I'd have one that's a 2 cup and one that's a 1 cup. And then you need a teaspoon and 1/4 of a teaspoon as well. And that's about it, okay? And I usually keep an extra spoon out because I use that to spoon out my sugar. So let's get started. I take 2 sticks of softened butter. So you always want your butter to be softened. Take that and add that to your mixing bowl. And I usually keep the butter out. In the summer, usually within like 3 hours, your butter will be softened. In the winter, sometimes it takes an extra hour. 2 sticks of butter. Okay, it's the second stick, great. And then what you're going to do is add your sugar. So you'll have 3/4 of a cup of granulated sugar, okay. White sugar. So you'll have 3/4 of a cup. Okay. And this is a great recipe. Like I said, I used to bake these when I worked at American Airlines. My friends and I, we always had a charity, a cancer charity, and that I would donate my home baked chocolate chip cookies to, and it was really nice and for a great cause. And we'd take the chocolate chip cookies and we'd put some ice cream in the middle. So put your 3/4 cup of granulated sugar. So we would take them and we'd take 2 chocolate chip cookies and we'd take ice cream, vanilla ice cream, and we'd put those in the middle of the cookie and we'd sell those, and all the proceeds went to the charity, and it was very nice. It was really neat. And this is 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar. Let's use this one. And anytime you are, we've mentioned this before, you're baking, you want to take your brown sugar, anytime you have a recipe, especially when you're baking, 3/4, you want to press it firmly to the bottom of your cup, measuring cup, and pack it down so that you truly do have your amount that you need. So in this case, that's 3/4. And okay. That is it. And then make sure you seal your sugar. I know I've mentioned that before too, right away, because it easily dries out quickly and hardens. So we have that. Then you will cream your sugar and your butter together, sugars and butter, and cream that together nicely for several minutes, so that it's really on medium to high. So medium to high for several minutes, and then after about a minute, as I've always said, take your spatula And in a mixing bowl, you always want to scrape the sides down. And that way you'll notice when you're doing this why it's so important, because you will see the butter will have collected, kind of pressed onto the sides of your mixing bowl, and you don't want that to remain there. You want it to mix in all together with the sugars. So start again. Okay, do it another time, and then we should be set, and we'll just let that go another, about another minute. Perfect. Okay, then you want to add, let's see, a teaspoon of vanilla. So take your vanilla, and I put a teaspoon, and then I add, this always happens to me, excuse me, let me grab another vanilla. So you want a teaspoon and then another quarter, so 1 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla. And you'll notice that most recipes call for 1 teaspoon of vanilla. So I've had a lot of people through the years ask me what it is about my chocolate chip cookies, excuse me, get this, that makes them, that makes my chocolate chip cookies kind of special and unique in the way that they taste. And one of those things is absolutely is the little extra vanilla that I put into the cookies. Okay, so that's one thing. I'll mention another later, but okay. And you want, oh, these are so hard to open. Another, go get my, excuse me. Okay, great. Okay, so you want to add another quarter teaspoon of vanilla. Okay, so that's 1 1/4. And then you take your eggs and you add your eggs one at a time. And I think I've also mentioned, and I'll mention again in case you didn't catch this in another video of mine. You want your eggs to be almost pretty much at room temperature. So take them out when you're going to bake. Take them out about 15 minutes prior. And then mix that together. And again, you wash your hands after you handle the raw eggs, when you crack the eggs in. Then take your spatula again, and like I mentioned, make sure you scrape down the sides. And move it around a little so you can get the other side, and then everything will mix together nicely all together. And that's really important when you're baking. Everything has to be incorporated together very well. So turn it back on. You want to run that, mix that about 2 minutes on a medium to high speed. So now we move on to our dry ingredients. Take flour, you'll take all-purpose white flour and add 2 cups. And then it'll actually be 2 3/4 cups. So we start with the 2 cups. So we have a 2 cup measuring cup. Add your 2 cups. There. And then 3/4 cup. Now, this is another one of my when I'm asked, kind of what makes my chocolate chip cookies so good, and they rise very well, and they're kind of a thick stacked cookie rather than real flat. That's one of the secrets. So I put 2 3/4 cup of white all-purpose flour. All right, we're not going to mix that just yet because we're going to add the rest of our dry ingredients. And there is even yet another little trick I have that makes mine taste really nice, really delicious and unique. So you take a teaspoon of your baking soda. That helps for the cookies to rise. So 1 teaspoon of baking soda. And I know I've mentioned this before, but it is super important. It's very important to get your all of your ingredients precise. So you don't want anything off. If you notice you have a little more than you need of something, you want to kind of make it as equal to as you can of what the recipe says. So a teaspoon, okay, so 1 1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt, okay? So that's my other secret. That is really, really nice in a chocolate chip cookie. So you want to put 1 1/4 teaspoons of kosher salt. And again, that is really important for your cookies to turn out, have a really nice flavor to them. So that's the dry ingredients all together. Perfect. So let me make sure we're not missing anything on my recipe. No, that's it. Perfect. Okay, so mix that together. Again, when you're starting out with an electric mixer with mixing dry ingredients, you want to start out a little slow because you don't want the dry ingredients going everywhere. So start on slow, wait until it's kind of mixed together. And once you see that the flour and the dry ingredients are pretty well incorporated, then you can turn it up a little higher. And then you mix it on medium until it looks like it's mixed together really well, where you don't see any of the dry ingredients. And that's now. So put it on medium, just mix it together, and let that go. Again, just because I'm the precision in me, the perfectionist in me says, take your spatula and go along the edges and just make sure that you scrape the edges of your mixing bowl, your electric mixing bowl, and then, all right, then take it on each side and make sure you do that. Again, you'll be making sure that everything is well incorporated, and that is very important when you're baking. Okay, so. Okay. That's it with that. And then now that's very well incorporated and mixed in. And when you're using an electric mixer, if there's someone watching that's very new, like someone very young or anyone that's new to using an electric mixer, always make sure you bring down your mixing bowl before you start removing this attachment, okay? Because it's made, where it won't go on, it won't start mixing. You could injure yourself if you're not careful. So take your mix. Make sure you don't have any rings on, men or women, anyone. Don't have your rings on when you're to this next step. You will take your spatula and clear the dough off your mixing. Let's see. Clear the dough off, okay? Okay, sometimes I just hit it toward the side, that helps as well. Then you get to a certain point where you've done all you can do with the spatula, so you set it aside, and this is where you get your hands dirty, a good dirty. So take the rest off, okay? Of course, I've washed my hands several times here, so they're very clean, but if you get to this point and you have been touching other things, you want to make sure that you wash your hands first. And then take this, clear it, okay? All right, let me set this aside, I'll be right back. And the fun part comes up next, okay? So, now you are ready to mix in your chocolate chips. And this is a very fun recipe to make with kids too, and with because the kids like to make cookies, and I think chocolate chip cookies, I know they always enjoy that, and I've made them with kids before, and they really enjoy it. It's fun. So take your chocolate chips, and you're going to add 2 cups. So take them. Any chocolate chips, semi-sweet. They're semi-sweet chocolate chips. Of course, we all know Nestle makes them. I also like the ones from Trader Joe's. They're a German-based company, so they make really nice chocolate products that they have in their stores. So 2 cups, add those, as well as Whole Foods, any store, right? But you can find the Nestle anywhere, and those are always great too. So take your hands, clean hands, and now is the time that you're going to mix these in, okay? So they're really best mixed by hand. If you use a spoon or you try to mix them with the electric mixer, you're going to end up breaking some of the chocolate chip morsels apart, and you don't want that, because you don't want that chocolate to melt into your cookie that way. You want them to be actual chocolate chips. So you see, you mix that together, and just make sure they're well incorporated, that you get to the bottom of your bowl, and mix them in really well. Okay. And really, this is a very easy recipe. You know, it's just that a few of my tips, I know my friends have always wanted, and my family, they've always asked me about the flavor, you know, how some of the flavor of my chocolate chip cookies that they've really loved. So I appreciate that they have, and I love making them for my friends and family. So so thank you for being my big fans. So take it, and you just have a lot of dough here. So take that, and you've mixed it in really well, the chips. You can see that. So they come out really nice, and so you're ready to take your mix. And here is another like a tip that I have. First, you want to take them, and what you want to do is, everyone has always asked me, several people, almost everyone asks me, when they see my tray of cookies, how do I get the cookies in perfect circles, okay? And all looking the same. So they all look the same, they're nice circles. And what I tell them is, I actually hand roll my cookies. I don't use an ice cream scooper, I don't use anything else. I can use a spoon and put a spoon in, but I still take the batter, the dough, and I roll them into nice balls like that, okay? And when you do that, and then you pay attention to the size that you have, I usually like them about that size, which is about an inch, inch and a half, inch and a quarter in height. you want them a very similar size, as close as possible, because then they will bake the same, right? So if you have a small cookie and you have a large cookie on a cookie sheet, obviously on the same cookie sheet, the small cookie is going to brown and actually will burn by the time the larger cookie is ready and done. So you always want to do that. So this is my trick as far as getting the cookies looking very nicely and in nice formed round cookie shapes and looking very nice in nice circles. So that's what you want to do. So when you're finished, I don't need to roll out the rest. I just wanted to do that as an example for you. And then you wash your hands, and you will have preheated your oven to 360 degrees. Okay, so you want to preheat your oven to 360 degrees, and you bake your cookies for approximately, I always say start with 10 minutes, okay? Start out with 10 minutes, and then if you need to add a minute or two, you can do it from there. But what you don't want to do is start it at 12 minutes, and then you find that your oven actually baked them nicely in 10 minutes and they were too dark, because you can always keep them in a minute or two longer. But I would say to definitely bake them for 10 minutes to start at 360. And then what you want to see before you take them out of the oven is some light brown edges, not too dark, and that they just have cooked through. So if they're light brown on the edges and just lightly brown on top, then they should have cooked through perfectly. And my chocolate chip cookies, as everyone knows, are very chewy and delicious. So don't overbake them. That's the other tip. That's another thing everyone always asks me is, how do I get these really chewy cookies? And they're still chewy the next day and the following day, as long as you wrap them in plastic wrap. So you have to keep them well sealed and covered completely to avoid them from getting from hardening, and they'll stay chewy and soft. You can always even put one in the microwave and for about 8 seconds and take it out, and it'll taste like it came out of the oven. So that's fabulous. Another thing you can do is wrap a couple of them in plastic wrap and put them in the freezer. So after they've cooled, of course, you can freeze them and take a pack out and eat them. Let them get to room temperature again. You can always put one in the microwave for 8 seconds, bring it out, and it'll taste like it just came out of the oven. But that's another tip or trick for you. They freeze very well, and then you can take it with you on the go if you'd like to do that. So let me get some out of the oven that are coming out of the oven for you so I can show them to you. And then, ta-da, here they are. So they look fabulous. They're perfect. And see how they're perfect round, right? Perfect round shapes. So let's take, you saw the batter, I showed you that. Another trick I have is, as I'm baking the cookies, I put the dough, I wrap it with plastic wrap, saran wrap over the top, and I put it in the refrigerator. So as they're baking, I keep it in the refrigerator and take it out, and that keeps them also solid where they form kind of stacked like they look here, and nice and round and perfect. So that's another little trick. So look how nice they look, right? And perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one for you and actually break it apart and show you how delicious these are. So those are chocolate chip cookies. So you definitely need to make these. And see how they're nice and thick, they're not real flat, and everyone loves that. But look how chewy they are. And the chocolate, delicious, okay? So I'm gonna have to house them. They really are fabulous. Wow. So they're crunchy on the edges a little bit, but they're completely chewy throughout. So fabulous. So thank you for joining me today. If you've tried any of my recipes, I would love it if you would go on Facebook or on YouTube, either one, and leave me a comment. Let me know. Let me know how you liked it. If the recipe turned out great for you. If you have any questions, let me know as well. But I'd love to hear your feedback, and I really hope you try these. I think you'll love them. They're delicious. I wish I could give you one right now. So have a good night, and I hope you have a great week. And I'll come out next here soon with another video, maybe something salmon or my lasagna recipe that I owe everyone. But I'll be making that very soon for you as well. So thank you so much, and have a good night. Thanks.